Hey guys, Matt here. This is my review of The Current War, the director's cut. This movie is directed by Alfonso Gomez Reyon. The movie stars Benedict Cumberbatch, Michael Shannon, and Nicholas Hoult, with Katherine Waterston and Tom Holland. The Current War is about two men, Thomas Edison, played by Cumberbatch, and George Westinghouse, played by Shannon. The movie takes place in the late 1800s, and these men develop electricity. So the movie is about their competition and their one-upsmanship to see who can leave a brighter legacy on the world. The Current War was originally slated to come out about a year and a half ago. And when they announced the film, I got excited because I like biopics. At the time, Benedict Cumberbatch was in a lot of movies and he was on a roll. But also the film had an all-star supporting cast. And like many biopics, yes, this movie did shine a light, no pun intended, on things that you may not have known about a character's personal life, but after seeing the movie, overall, my excitement dimmed quite a bit. And don't get me wrong, this movie did have a few bright spots, so I'll get into those now. One thing the movie did that impressed me was every time a character is introduced, they would show the character's name and their occupation, albeit a text, but considering a lot of these characters were reoccurring, they wanted you to be informed on who the character was and what role they played. Another thing the movie did was its use of shots. There was a shot in the third act that was really nicely juxtaposed between the lighting of the World's Fair to the dimming of a man's life that's on death row. And one thing that I thought was sweet in the movie is Thomas Edison and his son. Thomas Edison's children were named Dot and Dash, which was funny, because Thomas Edison and his son would communicate through Morse code. And there's a couple touching scenes where they do that, and so those moments were nice. As far as the acting goes, it was okay. Considering the cast this movie had, I honestly expected to be blown away. But I wasn't. And here's the biggest problem with the acting. The characters aren't fleshed out well enough. Thomas Edison is played like a real jerk, always attacking and bad-mouthing and trying to put down George Westinghouse and his inventions. Which would say something, but George Westinghouse, on the other hand, doesn't lash out, doesn't defend himself, just he takes it all. He's like, oh what, Thomas Edison said this about me? Okay, well it's not true, so it doesn't bother me. And that's not what makes for good competition or a good war. Some of the best competition movies, like The Prestige and Rush, they're good because you get to see the frustration, the sadness, the determination between the two people that are competing. This, it's more or less just one-sided. The supporting cast also, they don't really do a whole lot. Yeah, it was nice to see Tom Holland and Katherine Waterston, but aside from the role of Samuel Insull on Tom Holland's part as Thomas Edison's assistant, and this one little kind of pep talk he gives Thomas towards the end of the movie, he doesn't stand out at all. He's just a note taker and a secretary. The only character that stood out in this movie for me was Nicholas Hoult as Nikola Tesla, only because his character was unique and stood out because of his quirks, because of the way he spoke, because of how they didn't feature him too much, but when they did, you knew to look out and watch for his moments because he did some pretty extraordinary things. So this movie wanted to be like a documentary. And it wanted to tell you who these men were and what they did and their contributions to society. But it didn't come off that way. With the fast cuts and the fast edits. And the first act is very fast paced. And you don't have a chance to breathe. You're never told who these men are as people. You're never told what their inventions are, how they built them. Really, half the movie, I was just impressed by this huge thing of the United States that Thomas Edison made with a bunch of light bulbs to keep track of, which states he won, kind of like a presidential, chart with today's elections. But other than that, this movie didn't really electrify me. And because of that, I'm going to give The Current War a C-. It had a really good cast and a lot of potential, but they didn't really do anything with it. And when they did, there were only a few bright shimmers of hope, and then they squandered it with a meandering story. So until next time, guys,